All right. I believe we're
I
ready.
usually do, but then there was like
Are we going?
a time period.
Yeah.
where
All right,
we'll watch it to make sure.
All right, keep checking it for me. All right. Document-based questions. Like I said, when we do document-based questions, we need to make sure that we're using almost all the documents. You could probably maybe leave out one, but try to use all of them if possible. Also, if it's talking about something like the economic system, you want to bring in government, something that has to do with their government of that time period or something, or a totally different time period, because you want to bring in something that isn't related to this, so you can get one of those synthesis points. Any extra information you can add is going to be helpful for your point. It's kind of like if you were trying to get one of your friends to date somebody, you're not going to tell them the minimum, you're going to tell them as much about that person as possible. That's kind of what I want you to do here. I want you to tell as much information as possible. If you're going to want your friends to date somebody, you're not just going to say, oh, they're tall, they're, attractive, they're funny. You're going to give some good detail, right? You're gonna give them detail. I want detail. Okay, so pretend like you're trying to really sell this. All right, so let's look at this. All right, it says suggested reading and writing time, 55 minutes. It is suggested you spend 15 minutes reading the documents and 40 minutes writing your response. This will be very similar when you do the document-based essay on your test. Okay, take those 15 minutes to read everything and make notes. Don't waste any time. Okay, read every document, make notes, highlight, whatever you gotta do. Okay, question 1 is based on the accompanying documents. The documents have been edited for your purpose of this exercise. In your response, you should do the following. 1, you need a thesis statement. Present a thesis that makes a historically defensible claim and responds to all parts of the question. The thesis must consist of one or more sentences located in one place, either the introduction or conclusion. Please do it in the introduction. It requires somebody who is a completely stellar, already college level writer to put it in the conclusion. So if you're like, I'm the best writer this school has ever seen, then feel free to put it in the conclusion. But it makes it easier on whoever's grading your essay if they can read it and they know what to look for as they're reading your essay. Yes. Get a tissue, it's okay. Okay. The next thing you need to do is have an argument development. Develop and support a cohesive argument that recognizes accounts for historical complexity by explicitly illustrating relationships among historical evidence such as contradictions, corroboration, or qualifications. Use of the documents. Utilize the content of at least 6 of the documents. Okay, you're always going to have 7. So when they say use 6 of the documents, it means you can leave one out if you need to, if you can't find a point for it. Okay. Sourcing the documents. Explain the significance of the author's point of view, author's purpose, historical context, and or audience for at least 4 of the documents. Okay, so let's think about this. Remember yesterday how I said we were talking about some recent history, things going on today, and I said when you do something as a historian, and if you're going to think like a historian, you really have to look at something from everybody's point of view, not just one person's. Just because a Buddhist monk is writing something, you need to think like a Buddhist monk. Okay? Even though it may be about a whole different thing, you might have your own opinion on it. When you're reading a certain section, you need to read it like that person. You need to become that person as you're reading it. How would they think about this? How would they think about what's going on? How would the Buddhist monks think about these gunpowder empires taking Christian boys and putting them into their army? Okay, but somebody who is in one of those gunpowder empires is going to have a different opinion of it, right? As will a Christian boy. Okay, everyone's going to have a different outlook on the same thing. And so that's why it is so important to look at something from the point of view of whoever is reading, whoever is talking about, whatever that document is. Look at it from their point of view, not yours.
Didn't some of the Christian boys convert though and raise higher in the ranks?
Yes, they did. Because that was the only way they could get out of being in the military, is to convert. And then they could move up. So yes, several of them did convert. A lot of them converted. But also think about how impressionable young boys are.
Yeah.
Pretty impressionable. So it wasn't too hard to convince them. Okay, so you're going to source those documents. Contextualization, here's another point. Situate the argument by explaining the broader historical events, developments, or process immediately relevant to the question. Okay, so something else, a different historical event that you can relate to it, one that's not spoken about, or a different time period that's not spoken about in documents. Okay, so you're going to try and bring it across a different scope there. Synthesis. Extend the argument by explaining the connections between the argument and one of the following. This is where we're getting to our different historical period, situation, era, or geographical area. So if we're going to talk about a revolution, you know, and the whole revolution is all about the Haitian Revolution, which we'll get to in period 5. Let's say it's all about the Haitian Revolution. Well, you can talk about all the documents in the Haitian Revolution and then compare it to the French Revolution or the American Revolution. And that would give you that synthesis point because you're talking about a different revolution, even though they're both revolutions. Okay, a course theme and or approach to history that is not the focus of the essay, such as political, economic, social, cultural, or intellectual history. A different discipline, such as economics, government, and politics, art, history, or anthropology. All right, so let's flip the page. Here is our question. Analyze the extent to which the migration of slaves across the Atlantic Ocean changed social structures in Africa and the Americas from 1450 to 1850. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 15 minutes to read through these documents, mark them up. Whose point of view are they from? What can we look at? When we're looking at these documents, what are we going to look for? I just gave you one point of view. What else might we look for? It's okay, Wyatt. Don't cry. What are some other things that we're going to look for?
The place.
Okay, what geographical region is it? Okay, what else? Are they talking about the social structure? Are they talking about economics? Are they talking about culture? Right, so we're going to look at it that way. Okay, so those are some different things we're going to look at. Is it a primary document or is it a secondary document? Is this a primary source? Something directly from that person? Is it a secondary source? Something written in 2005 about that time period? Okay, these are going to be important things to remember to write down. So what I'm going to do is pause your video and I'm going to give you guys 15 minutes to go ahead, read, and then mark these up, okay? And then we're going to come back and we're going to discuss them together, okay? I don't think they need. And we're back. It's been 15 minutes. Okay, so on our question, did anybody underline anything that they thought was important to remember?
I underlined a
I did.
lot.
I underlined the whole paragraph just to make
I
sure it was all
underlined like
important.
keywords.
Okay, what keywords did you underline?
Like in the first
In the
document.
sentence, the first sentence, like the question. I'm talking about the question
Oh.
itself.
Oh,
I didn't underline that.
Okay, migration of slaves, social structures, Africa, and Americans. That's what I underlined. That was just so I remembered as I was, if I read something, I could look back up there and say, okay, what am I looking for in this? So I don't get too off topic. Okay, the first document. Somebody tell me something that they put on there. Anything. Don't think you're wrong. Don't be nervous.
that was
Do I-
underlined or what?
Anything.
They wanted slaves because they were lazy.
They didn't want to do the
They
work.
wanted slaves because they were what?
They were lazy. They didn't want to do
They
the
weren't
work,
willing
so
to
they
do the
were
work.
slavery.
I like circled
Okay.
not like several times.
You circled what?
Not because it said the Spaniards are not willing to do the work.
Okay.
I put
And
that
natives
the
who
artist,
have become
not artist.
Christians are not allowed to be forced to do the work.
Okay. What
I
did you
put
put?
that the author pitied the black workers.
Okay. Good. You were looking at their point of view. Good. Anybody else put anything?
Like-
They didn't treat the slaves good. They didn't feed them enough, and they died often.
Okay. Yeah. Often working them too hard and giving them too little to eat, they fall sick and greater number part of them die.
They said it was necessary to have them, like the slaves.
Yeah, it was like they didn't have a choice, did they? Because
No one wanted
there
to do the
used to be
work,
gold and
so-
silver above the ground, and then all of a sudden they have taken it all, and so now it's not above the ground, it's gonna be mined out of the ground. Okay, so I put that document 1 was economic based. It was based on economics, money. And then that first paragraph, it talks about having a division of labor. Now that they have to actually have people do the work, because before picking up gold and silver off the ground, probably not such a big deal. But now you're gonna have to have a division of labor. You're gonna have to have people do this work, which leads into them not forcing the Christians to do it, and then them not treating the slaves well. Okay, but that they have a need for slaves. So this one's economic, the first one.
And I think when they said Negro slaves, it kind of like instead of African, like they use Negro, which isn't like a bad word or anything. It's just kind of derogatory.
It is, but it was also
Yeah.
older.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, it's probably a secondary source. I don't think it's a primary source.
I think it's like that. So
Yeah, it's like somebody had written something about it. Okay, document 2. What did you guys have about document 2?
Social structures.
Social structures. I have the same thing.
It's culture based. Like it talks about how they practice witchcraft and they
Okay,
brought in new stuff. Like new
Yeah.
traditions.
definitely.
And
Okay,
The Spaniards were scared that the numbers of everybody else but them would grow to where they would revolt against them.
okay.
That's what I put. The
Right,
lower
because
class
what
stuff.
happens in society, the little pyramid, what
the
happens?
lower class is bigger and overtakes them.
Yeah, the lower class, if they want, the person hits the bottom of that pyramid, if they get strong enough, they can definitely overtake. And that's exactly what they're afraid of here in document 2, taking over. Was this a primary source or a secondary source?
primary.
Definitely primary. It's from a Jesuit chronicler, talking about the castas in Peru. And what is the casta?
It's like a cast.
It's kind of like a caste
Social
system.
hierarchy.
Yeah, it's the social structure. It's the breakdown. Okay, now, document number 3. Primary or secondary source?
Primary.
Primary. Okay. What is this about?
A African king not liking his people being taken away.
Yeah, he is. But what is he mostly concerned with?
The
Population.
depopulation.
Depopulation of what else?
Like people
America
being able to
and
learn
Africa.
and
Like they're taking like noblemen and stuff, and that's what's getting him. Is they're taking like important people, and they have no idea who it is.
Right. It says our country is being completely depopulated, and your highness should not agree with this, nor accept this at your service. And to avoid it, we need from you no more than some priests and a few people to teach in schools, and no other goods except wine and flour for holy sacrament. So what is he wanting them to get away from?
trading the people for
Trading, just in general. He's wanting to get away from the economic-based system that they have going on and work more on religion and conversion to Christianity. He is more like, look, we've got to stop this trade thing. We need to worry more about these people and their souls. We've got to help these people. So it's definitely religious-based. He's definitely more concerned with these people than he is with trade. Another great inconvenience is, which is of little service to God, is that many of our people, keenly desirous as they are of wares of things of your kingdoms, which are brought here by your people. So you're making our people want these goods, and we need them to want God. And that's basically what he's saying here. We want them to want God. We don't want them to want these goods and services. That's not helpful. And so he's very concerned about religion and keeping God in the forefront of things instead of goods, commodities. And the source is King Alfonso I of Congo, a letter to King João of Portugal. So this is from one king to another. It's kind of interesting. You would have expected that more from whom?
a lower class.
Maybe a lower class, maybe a Jesuit, maybe the other source, the Jesuit chronicler. You would have thought more something like that from him. But you have this from one king to another, which is kind of interesting. So how do you think this king feels about his people in general then?
He probably
He
likes
loves
them.
He loves his people. Yeah. Yeah, this guy is he cares about
He
his
sees them as
people.
people, not items of
He
property.
sees them as people, not property. That's different than what you see a lot of these other people doing, especially coming up. Okay, so document 4. Primary or secondary?
Secondary.
I put primary.
I put primary too. Let's see here.
Try
Because it is a
I thought
quote,
the
I put
italic-
primary. It could, I
I thought
mean,
the italics was like from a book or something.
well, not necessarily. I mean, it could be, let's see, the voyage to the island of France, but it could have been from this person. So we're gonna put that in question then. That's kind of hard to figure that one out. Okay,
I think that it was just saying that,
maybe a quote from a book, I don't know.
that nothing good is really coming from slavery because the Indians have been taken from their land as well as Africans have been taken from their homeland to do the work.
Right, like everybody is unhappy. Both of these regions are unhappy. And he says, I don't know if coffee and sugar are essential to the happiness of Europe, but I do know well that these two products have accounted for the unhappiness of two great regions. So basically, look, Europe, I don't know if this is super important to you, but can you please stop because you're causing a lot of problems in these other two areas. That's essentially what he's saying. I mean, so he is worried about what?
Worried about the country.
People that are not being treated right.
He's
Right.
concerned about the people.
So he's worried about it's economic based, but also social based, right? Because he's like, there is nothing that is more important than the happiness of our people, right? That's kind of what he's saying here. It's more important. America has been depopulated as to have the land to plant on. Africa has been depopulated with people to cultivate them. So basically, thanks to you guys, we're ripping apart these two areas. Please stop. So that's kind of his plea. Okay, document 5. Primary or secondary? Also.
Primary.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think this was actually written by him. Because it's Quaker and abolitionist. I think this was a primary source written by this person. This one is. I don't know about that one, document 4 though. That one's kind of up in there on that one. But I think this is a book written by this person because it has their name, it has what they did, and then the title. Okay, document 5, what's it about?
I think it's basically what the last one was, but instead it's a European that's saying that these goods aren't worth what we're doing to the people
Okay,
that are
so,
being affected.
I put it describes the unhappiness and hopelessness of the captive slaves.
right, definitely. So this one's definitely about social injustice, right? Wouldn't you say that would be probably our typical social injustice, definitely. Okay, let's look at document number 6. This one's almost entertaining. Almost. Okay, document 6. Primary or secondary?
Primary.
Primary, it's a conversation. Okay. So, what is this about? I mean, it starts off in one way, but then kind of goes a different direction. So it starts off talking about what?
Religious similarities.
Religious similarities between Christianity and Muslim or Islam. And like, you guys think that, slavery is bad. You have the same thing.
If it was okay then, why is it
Yeah.
not now?
Yeah, as if it okay back then, why is it not okay now? Your holy book, both of them, say that slavery is in there and it's condoning it, so why is it a bad thing now?
Didn't Africans
basically like a
respect
sales
their slaves
pitch.
though?
No, not always. Depending on if it was a tribal thing or not. So certain tribes would take over and they were not nice to them. Much like if we look at the next document, you can see how they're chained together. Looks like they're going off to sail. So, okay, so we're starting off talking about the similarities, but then what does he go into here?
Talking about how easily he could get people from another tribe to send.
And all you
To
have to do
other
is kill their
countries.
king, and he had all their people.
Yeah, he doesn't have to capture. He's like, I don't have to go capture slaves. All I have to do is kill the king, and then I have everything that they had.
And then he
I have all their
offers
slaves.
his slaves.
Gold and silver. Do what?
Then he offers his slaves.
And he
By the
offers his slaves.
thousands.
Yeah, I have them by
So
the
that they don't
thousands.
get strong and revolt.
Right, he doesn't want to keep his slaves. He wants to sell them because they could get strong and revolt against him if he keeps them. He doesn't want that. He doesn't want to have to take care of the slaves. He wants to capture that kill the king and get the slaves and then sell them. Because it's better for him to not have them and have the money instead. So he doesn't have to worry about these people revolting against him. Very interesting. Okay, so let's look at document 7.
Would that be like a social structure?
Economic and social. definitely economic because of the way he goes about making his money, as sick and twisted as it is. Okay, document 7. I know it's not super clear, but honestly, on these tests, a lot of time these pictures are not going to be clear. They're all in black and white. Sometimes they're kind of hard to see. So what are some things that you can automatically pick out? You have to look at these pictures a little closely. So what do you see here?
They're
Men with
They're
whips
tied
and
together
swords.
and
Okay, a whip, they're tied together. So what do you think is happening to these people?
they're
They're
being
being
taken away.
transported to ships.
They're being transported to ships, getting ready to be sold, right?
Because you can tell that's like an African landscape. That's not anything that we would have in there.
Yeah.
Right, right. So you look at the landscape, very good. Look at the things around it. The landscape is different. Does that look like somebody who is a European person with the whip?
No.
It's kind of hard to tell, but probably not.
He looks Muslim.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not really anything that
Yeah.
we would wear. in-
it is not something that you would see a European wearing. So it looks like you have some people being sold. So what are all of these documents about? Pretty much.
They're
The
treating us as
Europeans
slaves.
with the
Africans being
Slavery,
taken from
right?
them.
It's about slavery. So let's look at document 1. Is it for or against?
against what, slavery in
Yep,
general?
for
it's
or
for.
against.
It's
For.
against.
Okay, you said for, you said against. Why do we?
I think it's for because the Spaniards are talking about how they need the slaves to do their work for them.
Okay.
I'd say it's against because she's pitying the black slaves. And
Okay, so you're looking at it as an opinion, and he's looking at it as the demand. Interesting. So you could go either way. Remember, when you come to writing some of these, it isn't how you interpret it, and it could be. I mean, there is no right or wrong. You're gonna have two essays that could both get stellar scores and have very different opinions. So the good thing about this is your opinion is gonna be okay on some of this, and how you view these documents. That's okay. So you're saying for. I mean, you're saying against, you're saying for. Okay, so you decide what you feel on these, if it's for or against. What about the second one?
I think
I would
it's,
say it's for.
yeah, 4.
Okay,
I think it's for, but they're still a little. They're being careful
There's
about how many.
hesitation.
okay.
There's still-
Hesitation, but still understanding the economic need. All right, so what about document 3?
Against.
Against,
Definitely
completely
against. All right, document 4.
Against.
Against.
Against.